but we'll do. Food bank on Canadian military bases. Well, yeah, I'm not surprised by that. Reform Party UK has more members than the Conservative Party. That's interesting. So the UK is fleeing the Conservative Party because they're not conserving anything. Christmas well wishes and more from leaders across the world. Don Cherry and Donald Trump, and Pierre Poilievre has a special message for Hanukkah. So that's interesting. Trump's still joking about the 51st state, but is it a joke? Is it really a joke? I'm not sure that it's actually a joke. Lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we got to start with John Cherry, and he says, Merry Christmas to all you people. Right? There you go, and he's carving the turkey. So, Merry Christmas, Don Cherry. So, somebody was saying the downfall of Canada really began when Don Cherry was fired. I think it was when Justin Trudeau was elected, unfortunately. Here is Melania Trump and Donald Trump, and they're doing a Merry Christmas message together. But also, they do this, well, Trump himself does this message by himself, and it's the same. It's the Luke 8:20. I think those are the verses, but apologies if I got them wrong. But this is the angel of the Lord scene from the Charlie Brown Christmas, right? Here's Donald Trump talking about that. Here you go.
President of the United States, it's my tremendous honor to finally wish America and the world a very Merry Christmas. For Christians, this is a holy season, the celebration of the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. More than 2,000 years ago, the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary. He said, "Do not be afraid. You have found favor with God." The angel told her that she would give birth to a baby boy, Jesus, who would be called the Son of the Most High. 9 months later, Christ was born in the town of Bethlehem. The Son of God came into the world in a humble stable. Whatever our beliefs, we know that the birth of Jesus Christ and the story of this incredible life forever changed the course of human history. There's hardly an aspect of our lives today that his life has not touched. Art, music, culture, law, and our respect for the sacred dignity of every person everywhere in the world. At Christmas, we give thanks to God and that God sent his only Son to die for us and to offer everlasting peace to all humanity. And we recognize that the real spirit of Christmas is not what we have, it's about who we are. Each one of us is a child of God. That is the true source of joy this time of the year. That is what makes every Christmas merry. Above all, during the sacred season, our souls are full of thanks and praise for Almighty God for sending us Christ, his Son, to redeem the world. Tonight we ask that God will continue to bless this nation, and we pray that he will grant every American family a Christmas season full of joy, hope, and peace.
Okay, so very, very strong on, less on let it snow, let it snow, let it snow, more on Christ, God, redemption, and so on and so forth. Very interesting. And that's Trump Vance 2024. And again, this is a shorter thing, but we won't go through it, as this one was a little bit long. So if Trump was the president of Canada, we'd watch it. But as he's not, we've got other things to have a look at. But link is in the description. You can check it out if you're interested. That's the one where he does the angel of the Lord thing. Apologies, I got them mixed up. Gov.exe is highlighting King Charles delivering his Christmas blessings. And Gov.exe says, King Charles delivers his WEF speech by blessing diversity for being the strength of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. And unsustainable mass immigration has led to a rise in violent crime and lower living standards. Charles is almost as out of touch as Trudeau. Here is King Charles.
Earlier this year, as we commemorated the 80th anniversary of D-Day, the Queen and I had the enormous privilege of meeting once again the remarkable veterans of that very special generation who gave of themselves so courageously on behalf of us all. On our recent visit to the South Pacific to attend the Commonwealth Summit, I was reminded constantly of the strength which institutions, as well as individuals, can draw from one another. and of how diversity of culture, ethnicity, and faith provides strength, not weakness. Across the Commonwealth, we are held together by a willingness to listen to each other, to learn from one another, and to find just how much we have in common. Because through listening, we learn to respect our differences, to defeat prejudice, and to open up new possibilities.
So how come we have to abandon our culture? How come we have to make allowances for other cultures, but not demand that our culture is celebrated or asserted at all or talked about or anything like that? It's weird. It's a very, very strange thing. Very interesting contrast to Trump. I think like Trump's message was one of, I hope God blesses this nation again next year. And thank you for all the blessings and so on and so forth. And Charles is saying, oh, we learned from each other. I don't know. It's weak. It seems weak. Here is Rex, and he's responding to Global News. Global News says, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau struck a conciliatory and hopeful tone in his annual Christmas message as he faces growing calls to resign. There are a bunch of ministers yesterday that all released very strong Merry Christmas video messages. All of them said Merry Christmas in text in the tweets. And I didn't tag them because it was Ahmed Hassan and Anita Anand, who are the two who I saw this morning, and Bill Blair too. All of those have very, very strong video messages, et cetera, about Christmas. And so it seems, and they were all released 21 hours ago as of 8 o'clock this morning. And so I thought, like, that's an interesting timing. Did they get an email? Like, if you haven't put out a Merry Christmas tweet yet, put one out and make sure it says Merry Christmas. So that's what I got out of that. But Rex Glacier is responding to Global News talking about this conciliatory and hopeful tone. And he says, oh my gosh, Telford has lined up her media loyalists for a Trudeau makeover. Good luck painting this vengeful, hateful, deranged psychopath as conciliatory. Remind us why Trudeau has had to go into hiding from the Canadian public and his own Liberal caucus. So that 7-week vacation couldn't come at a better time, right? I still think they want to get C-63 passed. Pierre Poilievre is celebrating Hanukkah. And so Christmas is over. Done. Roll it up. Let's go to the lighting of the menorah. Here's Pierre Poilievre.
Here in Canada and around the world, as we usher in the Festival of Lights, as we commemorate the spectacular, heroic, and miraculous victory of the Maccabees over the Seleucid Empire in defending freedom, freedom for Jews, freedom for all, freedom everywhere.
Do you see the contrast between Trump and Poilievre? We could continue. There's another 30 seconds at least, maybe 40 seconds of this. Hold on. We'll just see where this whole minute goes just because, well, we're this far in already.
Back then, the Maccabees were all alone.
It doesn't get better.
Today, the Jewish people have friends. You have friends all around the world that wish you success, friends that join you in lighting the menorah, friends that lock arm with you to march forward towards peace, security, and freedom. That bright, beautiful future is before us, my friends, and so I join with you today in a spirit of optimism and friendship with a...
So that was posted at 5:42 on Christmas Day. So, like, as far as I saw, we got Christians and Christmas got a photo and like Merry Christmas. Okay, there was another Christmas post. Actually, there were two. One with Winston Churchill, and one is this one here. Poilievre says, "The day is sacred. This day is sacred for millions of Canadians from coast to coast to coast. Christian families come together to mark the birth of their Messiah. Christmas is the story of a long-awaited Savior who came into the world among the poorest and most humble. It's the story of wise men and shepherds who were amazed to find that, in the words of one famous carol, the King of Kings lays thus in lowly manger." Canada is blessed to be home to so many wonderful Christmas traditions, whether their ancestors were from Kent or Kerala, from Angela or Anjou, or have been stewarding these lands since time immemorial. Each Christian community and family has their own way of marking this date, and many who do not share their faith nonetheless enjoy the warm and festive spirit of the season. Christmas is a holiday deeply connected with giving, not just exchanging presents under the Christmas tree, but sharing one's time and treasure with the most vulnerable in our communities. Today, we think of those Canadians who are giving up their Christmas in service of others, of our emergency services, essential workers, and especially the brave men and women of our Canadian Armed Forces. On behalf of Canada's Common Sense Conservatives, I wish everyone celebrating today a very Merry Christmas. So there you go. He's having a robust Christmas message there, a little bit more robust than this. This is what I reported yesterday, right? So you got Merry Christmas and Happy Christmas in French, and there you go, an image, right? So I thought maybe that was a little less than the 1 minute long video posted at 5 o'clock on Christmas Day. Here is another Christmas post on Winston Churchill. What Winston Churchill says of Christmas: "Let the children have their night of fun and laughter. Let the gifts of Father Christmas delight their play. Let us grown-ups share to the full in their unstained pleasures before we turn again to the stern task and the formidable years that lie before us. Resolve that by our sacrifice and daring, these same children shall not be robbed of their inheritance or denied their right to live in a free and decent world." Sir Winston Churchill. So there you go. And Polyev says, a Christmas message from Sir Winston Churchill that we need now more than ever. And so in God's mercy, a happy Christmas to you all. There you go. Interesting stuff. Trump's message was the strongest, I thought. And yeah, that's what I thought. Here is, let's do our grab bag of governance. Kirk says they're not even trying to hide that taxation is theft anymore. Canada Revenue Agency is planning to administer the proposed capital gains tax increase as if the law had been passed, which it hasn't because it's so bad. How the F does this work? So you don't pay it? Like, you don't pay it. And then if they try and get it and try and get you for it, take them to court, I guess, is the only way to deal with it. You tell your accountant, don't pay it. You tell your accountant, back that out and make sure that they don't take it, I guess. But interesting, right? And it's capital gains, so difficult to make sure that happens, because it can be a confusing kind of time anyway. And a lot of times you're getting money, so, you know, a trade-off of this, but it's going to be a lot of money, right? Capital gains tax. Yikes. Ryan Garrison says, independent senator. Good one. Justin Trudeau's birthday is Christmas Day, and so the senator misread the email, I guess, you know, posts something about Christmas. He says, happy birthday, Merry Christmas to Canada's Prime Minister. So, or maybe he's the only one who read the email properly. Wish me happy birthday first, and then mention Christmas. So there you go. Happy birthday, Justin Trudeau. And the Canadian Polly, somebody's hijacked my name. Jeepers creepers. That's ridiculous. Happy birthday, Prime Minister Trudeau. Look at what they're doing in my name here. Trying to confuse people. Unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff. Justin Trudeau says, spending the holidays away from home is no small thing. To every Canadian Forces member posted far from family this holiday season, thank you. And to the military families behind them who are missing their loved ones, a little extra this time of year, thank you too. And Austin Danger Powers posts the clip where a veteran is told by Justin Trudeau that you're asking for too much, right? More than we can give right now, right? So this is a clip from years and years ago, back before we were giving billions of dollars to Ukraine for their military mobilization. So I guess we have enough money to give Ukraine, millions and billions to Ukraine, but not enough to give to our veterans, right? But now, thanks, Canadian families. And it's a strange thing to say you care about the military, but Rex Glacier is highlighting this. He says, why do our enlisted Canadian Armed Forces members and their families need to have food banks on bases? And he's got a picture of a food bank, and I don't know where this is, so apologies about that, but it looks legit to me. I don't know where, other than this picture and the information that goes along with this picture, it's reported that there are food banks on bases. Can anybody confirm? And is that documented anywhere? Is any newspaper reported on that at all? I looked in this article that he's citing here, and there's nothing about food banks in there. I control F'd for food banks and kind of skimmed it looking for talk about bases on food banks, but I didn't see anything. So on one hand, Justin Trudeau says, oh, super duper thanks everybody in the military. And on the other hand, there's no food on bases and they're not paid a wage enough that they can afford food. That's crazy town. Why is that the case? That seems strange, right? Don't you think that our military should be able to afford food and housing as a basic kind of thing that they can do? right? I think. So anyway, that's interesting to me. Yesterday, I reported on the Arif Virini talking about the funding to establish Canada's first Black justice strategy. And I mentioned how decriminalizing illicit drugs like fentanyl in 30-day doses was something that they wanted to do. And Jayan Givani has been talking about it as well. And trying to hold the Liberal government to account, talking about this whole Black justice strategy, et cetera, and there's a lot wrong with it. And Jonathan Kay picked up on this, and he says, I had to check twice to make sure that this was a government official actually bragging about this expenditure, as opposed to a whistleblower sounding the alarm about this lame duck government's obsession with spending money on people according to their skin color. Yeah, do you think we're going to get away from that? Now, the other day, Pierre Poilievre has been talking about, radical gender ideology and things like that, and how men in women's prisons is not going to fly. And I asked, can women have a penis? Like, what is a woman? If we're going to go down this road, how deep are we going down this road? Are you going to denounce the whole idea of gender ideology in Canada? Because, I don't know if you can open up the prison can of worms. This man is clearly a man and not a woman, and you're going to go to the men's prison, not the women's prison. That's what Poilievre is saying. But I haven't seen him clearly come up and say that directly. Like, men can't be women. You can't change your gender. If you cut off your penis, you're a mutilated man. You're not a woman. I haven't seen that. Do you think we're going to get back to that? Fingers crossed. I super duper hope so. Really, I hope so. That would be great. That would be wonderful, because that's a signal we're getting back to some semblance of reality. Nobody in the history of humanity, as far as I've understood the history of humanity, has successfully changed genders by mutilating themselves, right? They used to cut, what's it called? Create eunuchs, remove the testicles of young boys so they'd retain their ability to sing high notes and things like that. But they weren't saying oh, this boy wants to be a girl, we've got to do that. That was a purely selfish thing that they were doing, as far as I understand the practice. And so it seems like I hope we get back to sanity. It wasn't like Varys in Game of Thrones was somebody tried to make me a woman and it didn't work out. Oh well, you know what I mean? That's not what happened. And I know maybe citing Game of Thrones is incorrect, but this whole ideology was created and then forced on us without our consent, and it's completely false. It's ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous thing. And so I hope we get back to talking about reality and in the factual sense of reality. Fingers crossed. Archer Pawlowski is talking about recent court decisions, and he says, shocking sentence in Alberta, another pastor sentenced to house arrest and 2 years probation for standing against pedophilia and the grooming of children. He's right. We have zero political protection in our country. Liberals, NDP, and the so-called conservative traitors are silent. They're all working against the people. And that's interesting. Danielle Smith's quiet about this. So is Pierre Poilievre. Right? So Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, but we're not going to talk about this miscarriage of justice. It's interesting. It's interesting. And then Archer promotes his street church in Calgary. So that's interesting stuff going on there as well. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to get back to reality. It seems like people are really all in on this manufactured reality, but I don't know how long it can really last without buy-in. And either you censor people or they buy in, right? And I don't think it can last a long time without people agreeing with it. COVID, they really wanted COVID to last, and it couldn't, because people were like, F you. Screw your stupid mask, screw your stupid test. No, and no, we're not doing this anymore. And they couldn't maintain it. Nobody wanted it, right? And the only people who wanted it were ridiculous people, right? Who watched the brainwashing stuff as if it was real and didn't realize that they were being lied to. Anyway, moving on a little bit, let's talk about Trump. Trump is still trolling, and he wishes everybody a Merry Christmas. This is December 25th. He says, Merry Christmas to all. And then he clarifies. There's a bit of clarification to these tweets. He says, Merry Christmas to all, including all the wonderful soldiers of China who are lovingly but illegally operating the Panama Canal, where we lost 38,000 people in its building 110 years ago, always making certain that the United States puts in billions of dollars in repair money, but will have absolutely nothing to say about anything. Also, to Governor Justin Trudeau of Canada, whose citizens' taxes are far too high, but if Canada was to become our 51st state, their taxes would be cut cut by more than 60%. Their businesses would immediately double in size, and they would be militarily protected like no other country anywhere in the world. Likewise, to the people of Greenland, which is needed by the United States for national security purposes, and who want the U.S. to be there, and we will. Sorry, there's a little bit more. Who want the U.S. to be there, and we will. Merry Christmas to the radical left lunatics who are constantly trying to obstruct our court system and our elections and are always going after the great citizens and patriots of the United States, but in particular their political opponent, me. They know that their only chance of survival is getting pardons from a man who has absolutely no idea what he's doing. Also, to the 37 most violent criminals who killed, raped, and plundered like virtually no one before them, but were just given incredibly a pardon by sleepy Joe Biden, I refuse to wish a Merry Christmas to those lucky souls, but instead will say, go to hell. We have the greatest election in history. We had the greatest election in the history of our country, and a bright light is now shining over the United States. And in 26 days, we will make America great again. Merry Christmas. I can see why people think Trump is the cheese has slipped off his cracker a little bit. I mean, not that he's crazy or anything like that. He's just got a lot on the go. He wants to talk about a lot of things. And he's very bombastic about it, and he doesn't have to worry about re-election, so he doesn't care. Bruce McGonigal says, Donald Trump, and again, I don't think that he sounds crazy, but I can see how somebody who doesn't like Trump or who's preloaded to dislike Trump could read that and be like, oh man, like why is he so crazy? Anyway, I don't really particularly mind his style of communication. I think it's funny, but again, I can see why people don't like it or think it's too much or not enough. Anything. Anyway, Bruce McGonigal says, Donald Trump is offering Canadians and Canada a 60% tax reduction and an economic boom if Canadians become the 51st state in the United States. We would be able to keep emergency rooms open. The dollar we earn would have way more value than the weak Canadian dollar. Pretty sad when a passing joke starts to sound so appealing. I don't honestly know that it's a joke. I don't know that he's joking, really, honestly. And like, that's not to... I think that if Trump could parlay the United States to being in control of Greenland and Canada, like if Canada was a thing like Guam, I think that Trump would see that as a massive success. And if he could onboard Canada and have all of the resources of Canada, Trump, again, would see that as a massive, massive success. And other people would too. And the other thing is, Canada is not allowing Canadians to develop and profit from our own resources, whereas Trump is saying that he would allow that to happen. And I'm not saying let's become American. I'm just saying it's interesting that our own government is hamstringing us, and Trump is promising us more freedom than the Canadian government would ever promise us. So that's, I mean, it's interesting. And I wrote up, there was a whole write-up of how the United States could annex Canada, and I thought it was pretty interesting. It was like a three-step thing. I think I presented it or I tagged it, and it's not in my list, but fundamentally the three steps are offer Canadian citizens parity and transfer of their savings to US dollars at par at parity. And say basically like you can, if Canada doesn't want to become the 51st state, Trump could screw Canada big time by saying, okay, any Canadian who wants to become an American can move down to the United States, bring your savings, turn them into 401k at parity, maintain your buying power or whatever it is, but you can come to the United States and live here as an American, and we'll welcome you with open arms. We want the Canadian talent basically, and we're gonna do everything we can to recruit them, right? And then basically top 10% leave. Anybody with means leaves, right? And then basically he has to wait because that top 10% leaves, the tax commitments, the expenditures don't really change all that much, but the people who were paying for them all left for the United States for cheaper taxes, right? And so because they did that, now Canada has to print money to cover its debts. Now the Canadian dollar is in a spiral. And so because of all that economic reality, all Trump has to do is wait. The only people left are people who are incapable of leaving and the people who are being stimulated by the government spending. And then as that breaks down, Trump comes in with the National Guard and says, I'll fix things, and then it becomes the 51st state anyway, if Trump wanted to be a real a-hole about it, right? But again, if you see weakness and you say it's going to be better for these people anyway if I take over, and for the top 10%, they can move, make things better for themselves right away. And then for the people who have to wait, it'll be 3 years to 5 years, but it'll be better. But again, is this the Iraq situation, right? Oh, we'll fix this problem for those people. We'll bring them, what do they call it? Democracy. We'll bring them democracy. We'll fix their problem for them with the military, right? And is that really what that whole thing was about? I don't think so either, but I digress, right? That was the thing we were sold. Still, this is very interesting, and so I don't know that Trump is necessarily joking. He sees Canada as weak, and I think he's correct. I don't think we could defend ourselves. And if we got into trouble, look at the diplomatic mess we're in with China right now, and look at the Arctic, right? Like, we've got the United States defending the Arctic basically at this point in time, right? So what's the difference? It's very interesting. Very interesting. Donald Trump sent out another tweet for Christmas. This one, a lot of people are pushing back on Trump because Wayne Gretzky pushed the vaccine and people don't like that. And so Donald Trump says, I just left Wayne Gretzky, the great one, as he is known in ice hockey circles. I said, Wayne, why don't you run for Prime Minister of Canada? Soon you'd be known as the Governor of Canada. You would win easily. You wouldn't even have to campaign. He had no interest, but I think the people of Canada should start a draft Wayne Gretzky movement. It would be so much fun to watch. And that was Trump on Truth Social. I don't know about the Wayne Gretzky endorsement. It's pretty funny, but I'm not interested in having Wayne Gretzky as, again, he pushed the vaccine. He seems kind of in that fold of that club, if you will, although he's a very good hockey player. So here's Donald Trump, and he actually posted this meme. This is Donald Trump dancing the YMCA, but riding a sleigh. So that's pretty funny, I guess. Pretty funny. Meme or troll master in chief. Grant Cardone. And I want to give you an idea of who Grant Cardone is before I read you what his tweet says. But Grant is an equity fund manager and real estate investor. He's got $4.5 billion AUM. He's got Cardone Capital and 10 times health system, Cardone Ventures, Bitcoin real estate fund, and he's got 1.1 million followers. Okay. It doesn't seem like this guy's a pie in the sky guy who talks about planes being teleported and things like that. Okay. And he says, proof will be discovered in 2025. Trump won the 2020 election. January 6th was an inside job to frame Trump. These things are obvious if you've been paying attention at all. And I watched these things in real time. And yes, obviously these things are true that he's saying. Drones over New Jersey are in search of weapons of mass destruction. I don't know about that one. I'm going to show you the drone stuff, some drone stuff in a minute. Weather is being manipulated. Yes, weather is being manipulated. If the proof of that comes out, if JFK actually goes after the chemtrails and we stop that, I think we get winter back. Like, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but I think that we, like, all this climate change nonsense and not having snow until, January and late December, whatever. I think all that snaps back pretty quick as soon as remember the 2020-2021 year where we had snow in October or the 1st of November and it didn't let up until April or March or April. I remember that, and that's what I think we're going to see much more of if we stop spraying in the skies. But anyway, I digress. It's interesting to see people who are, a million followers, big followings, talking about money, talking about that kind of world, discussing this kind of stuff, right? Because this used to be fringe before, and that's interesting to me. I just pay attention to that kind of stuff, right? The changing conversation, the changing of what's acceptable in conversation, very different, right? Very interesting. Jack is talking about this mail-in ballot fraud study finds Trump almost certainly won in 2020. Holy cow, we're not even in 2025 and the proof is already coming to light, right? And Donald Trump, 26 days. When I was a kid, my dad used to say, there's only 2 minutes left in this football game. Just don't worry, there's only 2 minutes left. And we'd be waiting to leave my grandmother's house. And when you're a kid and you're impatient, you want to go and you're like, oh my gosh, like Jeepers Creepers. I just want to go. And 2 minutes is a freaking eternity in a football game because you're controlling the clock and there's timeouts and there's commercial breaks. And 2 minutes on the field is 15 minutes left in the freaking game, right? And so I was thinking Jeepers Creepers, 26 days is an eternity in politics, just like 2 minutes is an eternity in football. And people just don't want to wait. The horses are ready to run the race. They're chomping at the bit. You know what I mean? They want to go. And so the proof, the evidence is just leaking out. It's like the analogy I used to use with it feels like the Bounty. Remember the commercials where they'd pour water on the Bounty and then they'd squeeze it, or they wouldn't squeeze it, and it would look like the one was dripping and the Bounty wasn't dripping. And it was like, well, that Bounty can't take any more water, right? And you find out it takes more water. This whole dam has felt like it's going to burst forever. Like that Bounty can't take any more water, right? And it just keeps taking water. So this could be the start of that drip on the Bounty paper towel, right? Interesting. I think it's interesting. And Gunther says, yeah, Trump won 2020. Obviously, if you were looking at all, yes, Trump won 2020. So True North. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful